Okay, hey, so this is the second installment of the process on this Alla Prima, which is a single session oil painting sketch of my eyes and nose. Um, so normally on step 3 of my basic process, we're choosing an average light, color, and value to fill in all of the light shapes of the face, as we did choose an average dark to fill in all of the dark shapes of the face previously. But I'm going to do it a little differently here. I'm going to start with a couple different averages and then not fully fill it in before I start focusing on the eye. This is just a little more freedom for me. How it works is I suggest you do the simple process, the most simple one. If you have a hard time staying organized, if you tend to get lost in the details and zoom in and kind of lose perspective and objectivity, then keep it simple. For me, I've been doing this so long, I require fun to keep myself interested, so I don't always stick with the strict process anymore. So here I'm starting with something warm tones from the cheek and the nose, because and this is Zorn palette still, so as you lighten with white, it cools, and towards your highlights, it's getting cooler. So I'm starting with something warm so that I can work towards lighter and cooler as I go along chronologically. It's logical, saves time. So here I'm choosing a second lighter and slightly cooler average light. So we're starting to build form right off the bat with just these two color values. And then pretty soon, I'm going to just start zooming in on the eye so I can put some dark in there in the iris and judge my values. Right, I'm showing you the brushes so that you can see I try to keep my colors separate. That way I don't have to wash my brushes. It saves time. All right, so now we're going to zoom in and start working on the eye. I'm going straight for the cooler color, but not too light, which is a common mistake. So it's kind of the same value as that lighter flesh tone, but different color temperature. A little kind of like a purpley gray. And then I'm going to go in for the darks of the iris. And then I'll have some range of value to start working to finish right off the bat. The eye is a great place to figure out how you're going to finish your entire painting, actually, because it has sometimes darkest darks and lightest lights, sharp edges to soft feathery edges, color temperature differences, cools, warms. It's got everything, so it's great. This painting is still at a bit of an angle, so you'll see that the iris looks a little more of an oval than a circle, but that's just the angle of the camera on the paper. Right, putting in that far sliver of white of the eye and making sure it's darker because it's going away from the light source, so that's the globe of the eyeball turning away from the light source. That's important to get that effect of three-dimensionality. And it's hard to get those teeny shapes accurate, so I'm kind of hemming that tiny shape in, put it in there as close as possible, but it was a little big, and then using the dark of the corner of the eye to reshape it more accurately. And it's very warm in there, so just going for that. I will say that the screen that I paint from needs to be adjusted color-wise. It's extremely warm, so I was painting this photo from a screen that's warmer than the picture you're looking at, for sure. I tend to paint flesh tone pretty warm anyway. Right, so just basically creeping up on subtlety of color and value shifts, adding more complication as I need to. That highlight in the white of the eye being more blue and lighter. It's definitely easy to get lost in here. I've done that a million times. The value shifts, those kind of soft, plain changes are subtle. So keep squinting no matter what you do so that you don't dive too deeply into the detail and lose track of the big relationships. Very important. I always recommend for my students to put up a sign, like a giant squint sign on a piece of printer paper and hang it so that it's shouting at you until you learn to squint. I will say, honestly, at this point, after so many years of painting, I don't actually squint anymore, but my brain processes things in squinted form. So if you practice good habits for long enough, then your process will develop to prioritize those things. So you won't always have to be actually scrunching your eyes up to blur unless you get confused. And so if I get confused or overwhelmed or I'm running out of time and I don't remember what's important, I will definitely still squint. It's building up towards the lights. Here, I use the palette knife a lot if I've got a lot of paint and my brush strokes are clumsier than I'd like them to be, and there's like a ridge of thick paint up close to somewhere that I want to work on and render out, then I'll take the palette knife and just scrape it down. It usually doesn't make that big of a difference. The paint's still on there, but it thins it out a bit, which can look beautiful and can affect the edge in a way that's pleasing. But mostly it's just to remove paint so that I can continue to work in there without it being so thick and messy. See, those relationships in the darks are getting closer and closer value-wise. This little bit of mixing I do, you have to be really careful. If you put a color down and then you smush it around, you have to be careful. You have to really know what you're doing because you can stir up something underneath. Especially the scraping helps this, so there's not so much paint underneath to change the color temperature of what you're doing, which can be a problem if you're mixing on your painting rather than on your palette. See right there, that's what I did, like put it in there, but it was too big of a thick line, and then kind of smushed it in between what was already there and what I had just applied. And it worked. All right, we're about done with this one, and then I'll have one more video for you guys to finish this one up coming when I get the time to make it. So hope you enjoyed it. Bye.